So today we are talking about, what does 5D ascension really mean? What is 5D consciousness and New Earth? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is a very popular topic in the New Age and mystical community right now. This idea of 5D ascension, 5D Earth, and 5D consciousness. And so what we're going to do today is look at this with logic and reason and see what exactly this is, if it has truth to it, or if it's just a bunch of mystical nonsense. What is it, and is it worth knowing about, and can we work with it? That's what we're talking about today as we understand what is 5D ascension. Now, to start off with, like I said, this is deeply rooted in the New Age community, and I see this talked about all the time. And I have a lot of feelings about this, because what are we trying to do here? We're trying to raise consciousness and create a new Earth. What ultimately is 5D about? It's about a new consciousness and a new Earth. Now, I think that the particular terms that they use and the way they describe it is not ideal. It's one of those things in the New Age community where they just grab words that sound interesting, like dimension or quantum, and they just throw them around. And I think saying things like 5D consciousness and 5D Earth gets very confusing. And on top of that, it's another one of those things where it's not very well defined. If you go Google what 5D ascension is and 5D consciousness and 5D Earth is, you will get a general understanding of it, but it's hard to pin down an actual definition. This is the problem with New Age systems, is, like I've said, they're very, very intuitive, but often have not much basis in logic and reason. So this is what has happened, case in point here. They have intuitively gotten very accurately close to the general idea that humanity is reaching a new consciousness and developing a new Earth. But the way they describe it and the lack of rigorous definition is problematic. However, the thing is if people want to change the world and help humanity reach a new consciousness, I think it's one of those things where ultimately we're on the same team in a certain way, unless you're starting to have some hateful ideologies where, like, oh, well, 5D consciousness excludes gay people. Okay, well, now there's a problem. But as long as there isn't anything like that, and that's why it's difficult to say, because so many different people will define it in different ways, and some people may define 5D consciousness in a way that excludes a certain group of people. I saw someone talking about 5D consciousness and New Earth, and then I'm going off memory here, but I'm pretty sure then they posted something about how the divine feminine is superior, basically like women are superior or something and are going to rule New Earth or in 5D. So when it gets to that kind of thing, that's not good. But if it doesn't include that, and it's just the idea, I'm sorry, I just ate a bunch of almonds, and I have an almond flake in my trachea windpipe. Anyway, as I was saying, but I want to break down exactly what this is. So I'm going to read to you a description of 5D consciousness, 5D ascension, 5D Earth. But remember that one of the problems is it's hard to pin down and hard to define, because there is not a universal definition of this. It varies from person to person and how they want to interpret it. But essentially, so the concept of 5D ascension and 5D Earth is rooted in the New Age belief related to a spiritual and consciousness shift. That's fine. So the 5D and 5D ascension refers to the fifth dimension, which is beyond the 3 dimensions of space and the 4 dimensions of time. In New Age thought, this fifth dimension is a higher level of consciousness and existence. Fine. Like, overall, okay. I just have a problem with the terms. It's weird to use the word dimension here. It does not fit very well. It's not fitting. But anyway, it's the idea of a new consciousness, a new dimension. This is an ascension is used to describe the process of evolving or shifting to a higher state of consciousness, leading to a transformative belief of the self in the universe. So it's essentially this idea of ascension to the 5D consciousness is shifting to a higher state of awareness that can lead to a deeper understanding of the self in the universe. 5D ascension is associated with spiritual awakening, where people become more aware of their spiritual nature and the interconnectedness of all things. So again, this is cool. This is fine. It's 5D ascension is often associated with spiritual awakening, where individuals become more aware of their spiritual nature and the interconnectedness of all things. Great. Qualities is that it's about peace, love, and joy, where one lives in the present moment with a sense of unity and connection to all life. That's fine. There's a lot more. That's one aspect of reality. There's more to existence than just living in the present moment. Living in the present moment is a big part of reality. It's part of the experience and the enjoyment of reality. But there's more to it than just that. Some people try and say that living in the present moment is the highest form of consciousness. No. Living in the present moment is an important aspect of life that we should partake in, but it's not the highest form of consciousness. You know what's really good at living in the present moment? Animals. Animals are great at living in the present moment because they have a low state of consciousness. They can't think about the future. They can't reflect about the past. They're in the present moment all the time. It's not a very high state of consciousness. But that doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's wrong. We want to be able to choose to live in the present moment and come at it from a higher level. So that's fine. We can live in the present moment, but we don't want to do it all the time. There's a time and a place for everything. I get so frustrated with all these systems that are so confined to, oh, well, intuition and connection to the spiritual is all what's important. Logic and reason and math. No, that's too confining. And then you have, of course, like the scientific atheists and materialists who are like, oh, we're all about what we can see, touch, feel, and sense, and we're going to reason about this, but the metaphysical domain, that's a bunch of bullshit. Obviously, it's a synergy of the two, being connected to the intuitive domain while examining things with logic and reason. Same thing with this idea of, oh, being in the present moment is the highest form. It's what life is about. It's part of it. It's part of it. And this is a problem that I have, is when people get so confined to a certain viewpoint. It's so weird to me. It's strange. But anyway, nothing wrong with living in the present moment. There's more to reality than doing that. That's a very important part of it, etc. So 5D Earth, though, what's 5D Earth? So 5D Earth refers to a new version of Earth, or a phase of Earth, that operates at the fifth dimensional level of consciousness. Okay? So it's an Earth where harmony, enlightenment, and higher consciousness prevail. That's great. That's fine. I'm down with that. Transformation of society. In this envisioned Earth, societal structures are thought to transform to reflect higher principles of communal living, environmental sustainability, and universal empathy. These are all great aspects to have in a new society. There needs to be more than that, but all great aspects to have, absolutely. And some believe that 5D Earth will exist alongside the current 3D Earth, but will be experienced only by those who have ascended to this higher level of consciousness. So this is where it gets a little, this is where it's hard because different people have different interpretations. If people are interpreting this as being, okay, 5D consciousness is a higher level of consciousness, which we would call all awareness, and 5D Earth is an Earth where people who live on Earth operate at that level of consciousness, that's fine. However, I think that there are some New Age people who literally believe that there's going to be like a spiritual version of Earth, and they start talking, so they start talking about like splitting timelines again and all this stuff. That's not so good, but it's hard to tell. Again, one of the difficult parts of this is it's very hard to define because a lot of people define it in different ways. However, if you take it to be the idea of just raising one's consciousness to a higher level, that's fine. And Earth reflecting that in its societal structures and governmental structures, that's fine. Now, the terminology, I think, is not the best, and it needs to have more rigorous definitions. Now, they talk about, and then the big question is, we're going from 3D Earth to 4D Earth, or 5D Earth. What about 4D? Where did the 4D go? So apparently in New Age thought, 4D is sort of a transitory consciousness. It's a consciousness between 5D and 3D, which is fine. You go from a very simple 3D, which is basic self-awareness, the awareness that most people have today. And then 4D is starting to understand that there's more to reality than just what you can touch, taste, feel, and smell, that there's another aspect to it, probably a little sense of interconnectivity. And then 5D is really being in it like, okay, yes, we're all connected. We're all, in eternal beings having a human experience. It's a much more firm understanding. So 4D is kind of a transitory period. I personally wouldn't choose to use, first of all, it definitely needs more rigorous definitions. I think the terminology is very confusing, because to talk about a 3D Earth, you would normally think of it in terms of like 3 spatial dimensions. 4th dimension is usually in terms of like a time dimension. And then throwing a 5th dimension of consciousness is just strange way to do it. And then talk about 4D as like a transitory. It's just not very clear. It's one of those things where I think someone at some point just thought that the word sounded cool and throw it. I see that a lot in New Age communities. Dimensional this, dimensional that, quantum this, quantum that. And it's like, do you even know what quantum mechanics is? And I'm not trying to be too hard on them, but that's the problem, is that these things are not very well defined, and it's just go with the flow and say whatever you want. But ultimately, though, if we're taking a look at this as just being a different set of terms to describe a new Earth and a new consciousness, then that's fine. And then so in those terms, you could say, yes, we are for creating a 5D Earth and helping humanity achieve 5D consciousness. You could say that. Just like you could say, we are here to elevate humanity to Christ consciousness or something like that. It's just another set of words that people have used to describe the fact that we are transitioning into a new state of awareness. We use the term all awareness, and the highest form of all awareness being hyper awareness. I think that is more clear. It has a very rigorous definition, whereas self-awareness is the development of the structure of the analog I. That's the concept of I. All awareness is the development of the analog all, which is a model of all reality and a realization of all existence. And then hyper-awareness is a very high form of all awareness, where the analog all, an internal model of reality, reflects reality extremely accurately. Very precise, very rigorous definitions. No need to throw dimensions in there, because dimensions are important when we start talking about the nature of reality, because nature of reality is composed of multiple dimensions: spatial dimensions, temporal dimensions, frequency dimensions, and this is, now we're talking about something different. We're talking about how reality is structured in terms of dimensions. So ultimately, yeah, you could use these terms to describe what we're doing. And so ultimately, yeah, just like anyone who's trying to help humanity reach Christ consciousness, or anyone trying to help humanity, it's fine. Yeah, I would say it's sort of the thing like, ultimately we're on the same team. It's one of those things where, yeah, we have our differences, but ultimately, if we're here to create a better inclusive world, like, we should all be trying to do that together. And rather than, me going like, oh, well, you're clearly don't know what you're talking about. You're using the word dimension wrong, so I'm not going to associate with you. I feel like that's a hindrance and has to do with too much of an identification with the ego and not seeing the big picture and realizing we're here to create a new Earth. And if other people want to help create a new Earth, I don't care if they call it 5D Earth or Bilbo's wacky world of fish sticks, and call it whatever they want. But if we're here to create a new Earth and we don't have major ideological differences like excluding a certain group of people, like, oh yeah, well, also, you know, gay people can't be a part of 5D Earth, or oh my God, you know, Mexicans can't be a part of 5D Earth. No, all right, that's a problem. All right, we don't want any racism, we don't want any homophobia, we don't want any sexism, we don't want any. Then we have an issue, okay? But I feel like that should go without saying. Well, no, actually, I need to say it. Humans are dumb. I don't mean you guys. You guys are not. But I need to say it because ultimately people are going to. I see things that should be obvious, you know, in the New Age community, and then. Like I gave that one example of that individual that I saw was like, oh yeah, 5D Earth, 5D consciousness. Oh, and women are superior. It's like, no, I'm all for women's rights. But just go, no, that's not, no, stop. That's not okay. So I would say that as long as we're all on the same page with regard to these basic ideas, which should be common sense, but unfortunately are not, I don't have a problem with people, whatever they want to call it. That's fine. I'm not going to split hairs about it. And I think it's too much of an ego thing if one is like, oh, well, clearly you don't know what you're talking about. You're using this word way. This is just incorrect. It's not how you use the word dimension. It's not. But we have to create a new world, and ultimately, who cares? So real quick, though, I want to kind of give like a more clear-cut case in point. I'm going to read a couple of quotes from Ari. Ari Love wrote this on 3 things you may not know about 5D Ascension. And I want to read it to you just to give you like a clear example of someone who actually believes in this sort of thing or takes this sort of position. And I'm going to read some quotes. And remember, if you enjoy the quotes that I read from, go check out Ari on medium.com. Go give them a follow. Go follow them. Show them some support. So I'm going to read some quotes from there. Now, I want to say that Ari, I think, is a good example, a good case in point, where I like the articles that Ari writes. I don't agree with a lot of things in them, and I'll show you why in a moment. But ultimately, it's one of those things where I think Ari really wants to create a new world and create a new consciousness. And if she believes in some things that I don't think are true, ultimately, if you want to help create a new Earth, and that's fine. If it turns out Ari has some weird, like, hateful ideology, then no. But as far as I know, she seems like a pretty cool person. I like her articles. And so I think she would be one of those people who would be like, oh, that's great to have you as an ally in creating a new Earth. Because I think we can all agree that we need a new Earth. And as long as it has those common, inclusive, foundational principles, then there's no real issue. But let me read to you a bit what Ari says here so that we can get an idea of this. So Ari says, if you are an awakening soul, you probably have heard about the ascension to the 5th dimension. If you are unaware of what that means, I will explain. If you see this message, you are participating in a simulated experience. Your body is an avatar, and the real you is somewhere else. Everything that you are experiencing is a projection of the mind. Okay? So far, so good. I agree. As long as simulated doesn't literally mean like a computer simulation, but I don't think she means it that way. Your body is an avatar, and the real you is somewhere else. You are an eternal mind. a zeta, that exists in the frequency domain, the domain of mind, and the avatar is your way to interface with the holos, the physical world. And she says everything you experience is a projection of the mind. Great. Ari continues. Most humans live in the third dimension, surrounded by pollution, chaos, devastation, and fear. Because of the destruction of planet Earth 3.0, there was concern the experiment would be destroyed. So we decided to do an upgrade to planet 5.0 to make things easier. Imagine a computer program going through an upgrade. Essentially, you're participating in a highly advanced virtual reality game, but are unaware. Yeah, I mean, so far, like I said, I don't agree with the terms to use that dimension to explain consciousness. Third dimension doesn't have anything to do with pollution, chaos, devastation, and fear. Third dimension has to do with the number of mathematical coordinates needed to describe a point in space. It has to do with, the degrees of freedom in a domain. There's length, depth, height, So to equate that with, pollution, chaos, I think that's confusing. But like I said before, fine. It's like calling something Christ consciousness or whatever. Cool. Fine. And using it as a computer upgrade analogy, I think that's cool. I like that. That's a cool analogy. I like computer upgrade analogies. I think that's really cool. Okay, but here, so Ari continues by saying, you do the following before entering into this experience. 1, you agree by signing a contract, a soul contract. 2, you choose or are given a team of spirits or spirit guides. 3, you select your incarnation group, family, friends, etc. 4, you choose your nationality, occupation, talents, etc. 5, you choose your life lessons and experiences. 6, you go through training with your group. 7, your team answers any last questions. 8, new memories are uploaded, old memories are erased, and you enter the experiment. So this is speculation. Like so from what we know about existence, we know that we are eternal minds and that we are systems of energy. We are zetas. We are transforming. We are evolving. And when we die, we exist within the frequency domain. We know that because that's the fundamental domain. That's the default domain. And the question is that for most people, this is likely an unconscious process. It's like having a dream. You're not really aware of where you are. You're just going with the flow. Now, yes, it is possible that minds can become conscious and choose initial conditions of their next life trajectory, right? By perhaps choosing, what avatar you're going to link to or something like that. Possibly, but we're not at the point where we can say, oh yeah, 100% for sure. We all have a soul contract where we choose what our life lessons and experience are going to be, and we go through training and your team answers any questions. See, this is just speculation and stating things with no basis. Like, why? Like, how do you know that and why? And it's like, oh, well, I got a download or my spirit guide told me. Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of people in history who have had visions of angels or whatever that came up with some really crazy ideas. And the thing is that all humans are all a little crazy. Everyone's a little crazy. I'm a little crazy. We're all a little crazy. That's why we need logic and reason. Human beings are hallucinating all the time, seeing weird shit that aren't there, coming up with ideas that are about killing other people. Human beings are crazy. So we need logic and reason to rein in on this. And though these things might sound good, we don't know for sure. Just like when it comes to choosing your next life trajectory and initial conditions, that seems like a reasonable hypothesis and extrapolation to make. It seems reasonable that we would be able to attain a degree of consciousness in the death current, the frequency domain after our avatars pass, and choose our trajectory. That seems like it is reasonable to think. However, by going so far as to get so detailed, like you have a soul contract and a team of experts and spirit guides. Like, maybe, but how do you know that? And this is the problem with New Age. They get these downloads, or talk to their spirit guides, or the universe tells them things like this, and then they just sort of proclaim it like it's true. And look, you at the very least, you should be like, this might be true. And so with stuff like this is why I'm not a New Ager. This is why I'm a neogenian, because we have the system of meta-rationalism, which says that metaphysics can be understood rationally, and we don't have issues like this. So this would be one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't agree with this, but ultimately, if you want a new earth and a new consciousness, it doesn't really matter. It's fine if you believe that. There's no real negative thing about signing it, believing that you're signing a soul contract or that you have a team of spirits or spirit guides. I mean, I think that there are some problems that could come with that, but there aren't any major issues. It's not like, oh, well, my spirit guides told me that, gay people shouldn't get married or something like that. Then that would be an issue. But just believing that you choose your life trajectory, life lessons and experiences and all that, which is possible. There's no real problem there. So it'd be like, this is why I would consider Ari to be someone who would be Ari, and people like Ari. I think Ari's a good example. As far as I know, I don't know everything about this person. We've just read, highlights from a couple of her articles. She seems like a great person with great intentions. And these ideological differences really don't make a difference when the world is so hateful and evil. We need a new world. Like, who cares? It's fine. So Ari continues by saying, every day more humans discover what I'm sharing with you today, like the soul contract thing, I think. Some participants like myself speak openly about the simulation because it is part of our soul contract. Most of us have already completed the experiment, but were selected or decided to re-enter to assist with the upgrade to the new Earth. Most of those assisting with the Ascension are starseed lightworkers from other planets. These starseeds are helping because this upgrade is massive and nothing like this has ever occurred. Additionally, most starseeds have abilities like healing that are essential for the Ascension. Therefore, every planet and dimension has a role to play since they all have an interest in planet Earth. So I actually agree that this is all possible. I don't know so much about I don't know what she means by having healing abilities. That I'd want to know more about what she means by that. But ignoring that for a minute, about different souls or minds deciding to incarnate or localize, as we say, to help assist in the world transforming, and possibly souls originating from other planets to be able to do this. And since we're all connected, every planet and dimension has a role to play since they're all interested in Earth. I agree that is all very possible within the realms of reason, and based on how we know reality to operate, could very, very, very well be true. However, I would say that we don't know that it's true. We don't know for sure that there are starseeds and light workers from other planets incarnating on Earth. Is it possible that souls that have originated in other planets have evolved to a certain capacity and now localize on Earth to be able to help move humanity forward? I think that is very possible. Here's the other thing. I think the thing that bothers me a bit about it is that I believe that it's possible, but I have a lot of reasons to base on why I think that it's possible, based on what we know about reality being a mathematical projection, and this being a reality of frequency. And we look at the evolutionary trajectory of a Zetic mind and how a Zeta is a transforming system of frequency. And we look at the evolution of consciousness. We can extrapolate and see that, okay, well, this evolution of consciousness would probably allow for us to be conscious during the frequency domain. And in the frequency domain, if we are conscious, it's possible that we could consciously select to incarnate to help reality move forward. And the reason why we want to help move reality forward is because this is a holistic mathematical domain where everything is connected. So our evolution is bound up with each other. So there's a lot of rational basis behind it. And I don't want to like put words in Ari's mouth, but I feel like that this is just coming from like a download that she had, or her spirit guide told her, or she just feels like it's true. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of New Agers, is that they just, oh, well, I just got this download, or it makes intuitive sense to me. Which, like, I think Ari is largely right in most of these things. Not about, I don't know so much about like signing a soul contract and all that, but as far as minds or souls choosing to incarnate and help Earth move forward, and then possibly being from the other planets, I think that's very, very possible. But I don't think that there is a rationale behind it. I think it's just a feeling. And while Ari is most likely right about this, what happens with a lot of New Agers is that, and see, New Agers get a lot right because their intuition is very powerful, but they also get a lot wrong because intuition is tapped into the unconscious domain that communicates in archetypes and symbolism and metaphor and analogy. And so they might completely misinterpret something and start believing that the Earth is flat, or the moon is hollow, or that there's an alien race living at the center of the Earth, or, you know, or there's shape-shifting reptiles that are whatever. They get to some really crazy ideas, and some of these ideas can ultimately be harmful. That's where I've seen some New Agers talking about like, oh, well, men must be like this and women must be like this because of the divine feminine energy has to interact with the divine masculine energy. So men need to be assertive and dominant, and women have to be receptive and submissive. And I'm not saying Ari thinks this at all. I don't think she does. I think that Ari probably has a very healthy perspective, I would guess. But I see New Agers that do this, and I'm just pointing out this is the problem of only relying on downloads and intuition and talking to spirit guides. If you're doing all that, that's fine, but it needs to also be examined with logic and reason. You don't want just your right hemisphere going. You want your right and left hemisphere working in synergy, and that has to be done. But anyway, ultimately, that the point is that even though there might be some things I don't agree with, and I think that the terminology is a little confusing, it is ultimately, we're largely on the same page. We're in general working towards a new consciousness and a new Earth. And yes, there's a lot of little things to figure out and a lot of differences. However, when you look at how bad the world is, you have people dying in horrible ways every day. Ultimately, we're all everyone for a new Earth and a new consciousness in an inclusive way should be allied on the same team. That should be happening. So as long as, you know, Ari or someone like Ari doesn't have any hateful ideas that I don't know about, I would be more than happy to consider them an ally. I would be more than happy for different occult groups or New Age groups or esoteric groups or even philosophies, panpsychists, whatever. If we're all on the same page for creating a new Earth and a new consciousness in an overarching way that's inclusive, I'm all for that, and I think that that's awesome. So when it comes to 5D Earth and 5D consciousness, yeah, you know, so you have to use different terminology when you're talking to, so if someone is using those words, I'd be like, oh yeah, we're trying to help create a 5D Earth, I might say. Just like I might tell someone who's into Gnosticism or spirituality that, oh, we're trying to help humanity achieve Christ consciousness. I don't believe that those are the most rigorous definitions. And I really think 5D is very confusing. I think 5D is throwing in dimensions and quantum constantly is very, very quantum, dimension, timeline. These words are fine. They just have to be used in the right way. There are dimensions. The quantum mechanics is a thing. And that's great. Talking about it in this way is just a little not that right. But that's okay. That's fine. It's okay. I think it's a fine if one wants to use that way to communicate it, and like I said, they're all for the inclusive aspect of creating a new world. Cool. Fine with me. So ultimately, what the hell is 5D Ascension and 5D Earth? In its most general state, it's shifting to a new consciousness of interconnectedness and unity, and understanding that there's a spiritual domain to existence, and 5D Earth is an Earth that reflects those ideals because the people on it are in that consciousness. All for that. Sure, that's great. Love it. Other people who believe that like it's literally another Earth that people live in like a split timeline or something. I don't know about that. But ultimately, hey, if you want to help us create a new Earth, that's fine too. But I would not talk in those terms at all. There's no overlap at all with that. But if it's for a new Earth, that's still fine. So overall, interesting ideas. I'm not a fan of the words, but now we know what it means, and hopefully it can help us communicate better with people, because we don't want to be, like those religious people who are arguing with each other over which God is the best. And ultimately, we don't want to be arguing over whether we call something 5D consciousness or all awareness. Like at the end of the day, or Christ consciousness, at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. Who cares? Whether we talk about the new eon, the neogenian, or the age of Aquarius, who cares? It's a new phase that we're all trying to get to. Let's get to it. God damn it. So that's what I think about 5D Ascension and 5D Earth. Let me know what you thought in the comments. This is a members only video, by the way, but I release one members only video to the public every month. So maybe you'll see this, maybe you won't. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, Halloween Mom, DB, Enki, Nusalina, Paul Rogers, Eric Fire, Masam, and Christopher Smith, and everyone else. Thank you very much.